You know that feeling, right? You donate to a cause you really care about, and then a little voice in your head wonders, where did my money actually go? It's such a simple question, but man, the answer is so important. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on nonprofit finances and give you the tools you need to be a smarter, way more confident donor. So let me just ask you straight up. When you give your hard-earned money, how much do you really truly trust that it's going to the right place? Trust is everything in charitable giving. But as you're about to see, it's facing a bit of a crisis right now. Okay, let's just get right into it because the numbers here tell a really fascinating and honestly a pretty startling story about the gap between what we as donors expect and what we feel like we're actually getting. Check this out. This slide really shows the disconnect. So you see that first bar? Nearly two-thirds of us say that trust is a huge factor in our decision to give. Of course it is. That makes total sense. But then you look at that second bar. Only 20%, that's just 1 in 5 of us, say they actually have a high level of trust. That's not a gap, my friends. That is a canyon. And this trust issue, it has massive, real-world consequences. We're not just talking about feelings here. Look at this. Charitable giving actually dropped by over 10% in a single year. That is a huge hit that directly hurts the ability of these organizations to do their amazing work. But there's good news, and the solution is actually pretty clear. Transparency. So how do you, the person who wants to do good, cut through all the noise and find the nonprofits that are walking the walk on transparency? Well, it's actually easier than you might think. We're going to build your own personal donor toolkit with 3 key numbers that will tell you pretty much everything you need to know about a charity's financial health and its efficiency. First up in the toolkit is what's called the administrative cost ratio. The easiest way to think about this is it's the cost of keeping the lights on. It's the money that has to go toward the essentials like rent and salaries that are just necessary to run any kind of operation. The whole key here is finding the right balance. And here's the magic number you want to look for. All the big charity evaluators generally agree that this ratio should be under 35%. So if you see a number lower than that, it's a really strong sign that the organization is being super responsible with its operational costs and making sure as much money as possible goes straight to its mission. Okay, next tool for your kit, the fundraising efficiency ratio. I love this one because it's so simple and so powerful. It basically asks, how much does it cost the charity to get one single dollar from a donor? You can think of it as the cost of asking, and believe me, it tells you a ton about how efficiently they're running things. And here's what you're hoping to see. This is the gold standard right here. The really top-rated, efficient organizations, they spend less than 20 cents to raise a single dollar. If you see a charity spending a lot more than that, it could be a little red flag that their fundraising strategy just isn't working that well. So, those first 2 ratios on efficiency, they are a fantastic start. They really are. But for our third and final key metric, we need to kind of zoom out a bit from just the costs and look at the bigger picture. We're talking about overall financial health and really their long-term stability. This chart right here, wow, it just illustrates such a critical point. Just look at that huge slice of the pie. Over 2/3 of all charitable giving in the US comes from individuals. It comes from people like you and me. This isn't mainly big corporations or massive foundations. It's us. And that's exactly why our informed decisions matter so much. And that brings us perfectly to our third metric, revenue diversity. It's just like personal investing, right? You never want to have all your eggs in one basket. So the key number to watch for here is 40%. If any single source of money, whether it's individual donors like us, government grants, or one big corporate sponsor, makes up more than 40% of their total funding, it could signal some financial risk down the road. A nice, balanced portfolio shows that it's a stable, resilient organization. All right, so now we know what to look for, but how do the best nonprofits actually do it? How do they achieve this level of financial clarity? Well, it's definitely not magic. It's all about having a really smart, disciplined process in place. And it really just breaks down into these 4 common sense steps. First, they track every single dollar and link it to a specific program or activity. Then, they pull all that financial data together into one central spot. Third, and this is key, they use modern software to automate the process, which saves time and cuts way down on human error. And finally, they generate these clean, easy-to-read reports that show exactly where the money is and what it's doing. And listen to this. This quote just nails the impact. This is from Lori Downey, a controller. She talks about going from a year-end process that took literally hundreds of hours to just having the information there in real time. That's the power of having the right systems. It frees up so much time and energy to focus on what really matters, the mission. So after all this, what's the big payoff? Well, when nonprofits really commit to this kind of transparent process, it changes everything. It closes that trust gap we talked about at the very beginning, and it totally transforms the relationship they have with their supporters. And the beautiful thing is that this is a total win-win. By being transparent, nonprofits can finally start to close that trust gap, which in turn helps reverse that scary decline in donations. They can clearly and confidently prove the impact they're making, and maybe most importantly, they move beyond just asking for money to building real, lasting partnerships. You're no longer just a donor, you become an informed partner in their mission. And that brings us all the way back to you. We started this by asking how much you trust charities, but now you have the toolkit. You know the key numbers to look for. You know the signs of a financially healthy organization. So the real question now is, armed with this knowledge, how is it going to change the way you give?